Inktober FISH. Well, that's my version anyway. So this year I decided to also get back into the Inktober game. For those of you who don't know about the Inktober, if you search for the hashtag Inktober, Inktober, you'll find that you will get prompts every single day in the days of October. The first one is actually just the simple word fish. Decided to talk about or paint fish head. Actually, I do like fish head. This is a particular dish that is quite popular in Malaysia and Singapore. In Singapore, you get more of the curry fish head. In Malaysia, you might get it cooked in all sorts of flavor. You get it too in Singapore. It's very hard to split the cuisine between Malaysia and Singapore. Though if you've lived long enough in both countries like I have, you can probably somewhat tell the difference. Anyway, first sketch with pencil, very lightly, just to get the lines, and I don't intend to use ink at all actually, but it doesn't matter. It's just a prompt. It's just to get some creative juices going, and I just want to make sure that I participate regardless of whether I use ink or not. Anyway, now what I'm trying to do is just to put some non-existent background, maybe a bit of gray. Well, this gray consists of basically French ultramarine, permanent alizarin crimson, maybe a dash of quinacridone burnt orange. So kind of make nice gray out sort of background. Use lots of water to sort of make one side of the shape hard edge, the other side completely blurred out. Yeah, as in like water vapory sort of blur, as you can see. It's very easy to make those kind of effects because you just add water, and watercolor itself will just give you very nice wispy sort of design. While I continue to put in more colors, I have to make sure that I continue to sort of soften the edges and soften out that part of it. Now, the whole idea here is very simple. Just basically think in terms of values, in terms of dark, light, shadows, highlights. As you can see on at the bottom of the fish, the shadow is cast on the plate. I make sure that I go in with rich, red, blue, green, dash of queen burnt orange. Same thing with the parts where it's just within the mouth of the fish. I also use the same color to do a bit of outline. As you can see that there's a bit of red in it. The eye, the fish is kind of dead, right? So there's not many sort of highlight or reflection. You don't want to make it look alive by giving it too much of a reflection at this point. Soften the edges of the shadow. I try to give it as many color as I can, so that it's not just a monotone dark, if you like, but more of a variety of dark colors. In the same way, you can see that I'm trying to work myself into the shape of the fish, trying to carve the sort of the mid-tone, dark tone on top, mid-tone, just playing with the colors, but basically focusing very much on the tone or the values, if you like, right? Dark, light, mid-tones, and so on and so forth. All at the same time playing with a variety of colors. And of course, don't forget water, right? Because it is watercolor, so there's a bit of red, surprisingly, in the fish. Maybe it's part of the blood that sort of stain on the scales. I'm not sure, but any chance that you see a bit of a colors, green, red, just sort of replicate it in a sketch, if you will. There's no need to be too realistic with it. Ultimately, you're trying to carve a three-dimensional form on a two-dimensional paper. There's always some sort of carving, if you like, right? Carving as in, not three-dimensional carving like a woodblock carving, but you use colors, you use values, you use shaped lines to make the sketch looks more three-dimensional. That's what I mean by carving, right? So the intent here is very simple. Your job is just to make it feel more and more three-dimensional as you proceed. Where the highlights are, just make sure you keep it. Where there's shadows, make sure you keep that too. Basically just keep going with regards to what you see and what you paint and what you sketch. Yeah. So continue to make more dark shapes. Well, don't worry about errors or mistakes or stuff like that. There's really no mistakes in watercolor. There's always beautiful explosion of, you know, spreading colors and so on, and I don't normally get too phased or too worried about it if it happens. All you need to do is just keep a tissue close by and just dab it off. That's it, and repeat, right? You can always fix watercolor to some extent. Of course, when it dries, you can't really fix it, but before it dries, you absolutely could still go in and fix some of the, you know, the patches of colors and so on, right? Diluting down some of the dark shapes so that I can sort of make sure it carves out as if it's three-dimensional. Like I said earlier, right? Making sure to keep the highlights in the center where the lights fall on it, and the reflections of the fish or the scale. Just a note though, I do like fish head. It's one of those cuisine that I really like. I grew up with fish head, and you know, it's the most delicious part of the fish, of course. This thing may put some of you off. It's the lips, behind the cheeks, and around the eye. Actually, that's the best part of the fish. The fish has to be big enough, though. Small fish can't really give you nice meat, so yeah, fish has to be pretty big. Or the fish head has to be pretty big for the chef to actually make a good dish out of a fish head. Anyway, I digress. So coming back to the sketch, again, I look for the dark shape. I continue to put in my dark, soften the edges as I see appropriate, keep sharp edges where I need to, but soft edges where I should, all by observing the photograph. It's important to be able to look carefully at the fish and continue to make sure that you carve the three-dimensional shapes, where they protrude, where it has a valley, where it has sort of, you know, different shapes out of the fish itself. One of the most important thing is actually to keep soft edges, soft. The problem is when you have too much of a hard edge, you have problem with portraying reality, if you like. So ultimately, it is basically just to keep the shapes, as close to what you see, observe, and continue to sculpt the shape. You can also use line as the case here. The lines indicate how the shapes are, basically carve out in that sense. The line helps you. It's one of the tools, using the lines, the elements of lines, to give the form or the shapes. Yeah. So I'm going soften a bit more, and observing the sketch itself, where areas that are still not enough mid value or not enough dark, go in with a bit more dark, a bit more mid value, and so on and so forth. It's all about observation, isn't it? Ultimately, increase your observation skills and you should be able to sketch better. Okay, so just continue to soften edges, put more mid-tone shape, and just keep going. Drip, 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 drip. When you don't really know what to do, just drip some red, drip some blue. Just a little thing I've learned throughout the years, sort of get the creative juice going. Okay, now, so I'm just gonna use white, my Copic white, dab on some highlights. Not too much, as I said. The eye shouldn't be too alive because the fish is dead. And use the white to sort of carve around lost whites, if you like. You can't get back paper white, right? The Copic white or any opaque white such as titanium white will give you, white, but the reality is that if you have lost paper white, you will never get it back. The white of paper and the white that you put on a white here is different, and your eyes can see it. So you just gotta treat it the way it should be, which is it's just to get back some highlights and to get some of the white onto a paper. I mean, that's just the easiest way to do it. If you like to use all the sort of liquids that protect the paper and so on, liquid mask, I think that's what it's called. I hate that stuff actually, so I don't really use it. So these days I just use this Copic white and some opaque white. In the past I used titanium white, and I just use my hand to sort of just smudge it. You don't really want those white to have too many sort of sharp edge like dripped in. Ultimately the finger is also an instrument, and just feel free to use it. Like here, you can basically use it to also just smudge the edges, and it does help with the whole composition, if you like. Anything goes, right? Ultimately it is just a tool, and you should never be ashamed to use whatever tool you can. Anyway, so here's my attempt. Not a good one. Well, it's okay. Not completely happy, but I'm okay with it. So if you like this sort of content, just to keep some of your creative juices going as well, and you like this video, please smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. It will help me tremendously. Much appreciated. Right? You have a good day. Peace wherever you are.